Hi everybody, it's George and we are finally doing that video. We're doing the video on the Boggart. I know it's been a long time and I do really apologise guys because I'd done a video on the brownie about 10 years ago and this is a follow-up to that video and it is a part 2. One of the reasons why I have taken so long is because it really is, there is a lot of information on the Boggart in regards to Lancashire folklore. And that's one of the things that has kind of took so long for me because I've had to get a lot of information together and there's so much various information that I've kind of had to condense it a little bit. So we'll get cracking. But I've got my notes here as well. So a boggart is an evil or mischievous spirit. It's derived from the late 16th century and it's derived from around the Scottish and Northern English area borders, okay? So generally there are two types of boggart. There's the household boggart or the loci-based boggart. So household obviously remaining in the house and loci is tied to a specific area or place. So we're going to loci based after this, but I'm going to kind of start with a household. Now, a lot of folklore tends to equate the brownie and the boggart almost as the same thing rather than as kind of like two split, like a Jekyll and Hyde almost. So this, the idea of that the brownie has gone bad, the brownie is being offended, and the brownie may be offended by giving it clothes, is seen as a massive direct insult to the brownie. It can also be offended because it could be, its work could be criticised, so people could take the piss out of it. People could joke about it and jest about the input and the work and the effort it does. That's a way to offend a brownie. Or people can be, if people are seen spying on a brownie, they do not like to be spied upon by folklore. For those of you that don't know and you kind of like, what's a brownie, please look at my last video, Folklore Friday, the brownie. Check it out because this is a part 2 to that. Now, in regards to a kind of example of the brownie that has been offended by given clothes, this I found was a really kind of, I found this quite humorous because the story, it kind of made me chuckle. So this is based in Boggart Hole near Burnley. And the story goes that there was a farmer had a boggart that was started off as a helpful housekeeper. So the farmer would find chores that had been done. You know, he would find the laundry washed and ironed. He would find the floors swept. And he was so grateful because the creature quite often would help him bring in sheep on a cold winter's snowy evening. And he never actually saw the boggart, well, the hob at the time. Rather than he just kind of heard him and he kind of heard his voice, but he was determined to rectify that. He wanted to know what this creature looked like. So what he done was he made a small hole in the ceiling of the room where the creature had done most of the chores. And he spied upon him. So sure enough, he was rewarded. His patience was rewarded. And he saw a small, barefoot, wizened old man who began to sweep the floor. And the farmer thought, surely his feet must be cold against that floor. And so, thinking the farmer was doing a good thing, he made a pair of clogs for the creature. And so what he done was he made them out of wood and he kind of left them for the boggart. And sure enough, the boggart found the clogs and picked them up. And the farmer's son saw this happen. And the boggart said, "New clogs, new wood. The hob does ne'er do any good." So new clogs, new wood, the hob thus will never do any good. So the hob is the hob of the house, the spirit. In Northwest it's known as the hob, also the brownie. And so from then on, after that, the era of good work was done. It was over and done with. And so the boggart began to hound and hurt the family relentlessly. The animals got sick. The farmer's prize bull was somehow transported to the farmer's roof. And household items were said to smash indiscriminately. So things got so bad that the farmer had felt he had forced to flee. But the boggart had other ideas, and whilst the farmer was about to flee, the boggart said, "Wait there whilst I fetch me clogs and I'll come with thee." And I kind of find that quite humorous, like quite passive aggressive, like, "Oh, wait there, I'll just get my clogs because I am not leaving you. I ain't going anywhere," you know, and there's kind of there seems to be this pattern in regards to the boggart following the owner or the farmer. Now, the funny thing is, I have a personal story about this. So I have a house spirit who I work with, and you know, we're really close at times. So there are certain things I'm going to kind of discuss about this story, but certain things that I will leave out because I'm very private within my own personal practice. And me and my partner, we went to Amsterdam, and the spirit of the house wanted something bringing back. So of course I was out there in Amsterdam, and I saw a pair of miniature clogs. So me, in my grand scheme of things, thought, yeah, they'll love that. I'll get them that. And I got them the clogs, and the sink blocked up straight away. Our sink blocked. There was problems with the toilet. There was problems with the shower. Dylan got sick, really, really seriously ill. And it all kind of, everything come tumbling down. It was a nightmare. It was genuinely a nightmare. It wasn't a good experience. That did get sorted. That did get, you know, that kind of, thankfully, that got sorted. But I'm not going to tell you how I done that because that's personal to my practice and my own experience. But one of the things what I will do is I will give you guys a piece of information on how people warded away the boggart. So one of the best ways and methods by folklore to rid the house of bad witches, evil spirits, oogly booglies, things that go bump in the night, is to nail an iron horseshoe to the door. That is said to stop a boggart from being in the house. The other way as well is to put a handful of salt outside the bedrooms, because by folklore the boggart is said to crawl into the person's bed at night and put their cold clammy hands over the person's face. They're also said to pull the sheets off people whilst they're sleeping. I've had experience of the latter, and it was quite frankly fucking terrifying. But salt outside the bedroom kind of stops that. And the other thing as well, one of the other things, the latter things by folklore, is that if you get a handful of flaxseed and you throw it on the floor, and the boggart feels compelled to count each and every different seed and gets really frustrated and just ups and leaves. But there are certain things that, you know, there are certain stories where they just do not leave. By folklore, never name a boggart. If you name a boggart, it will be harder to get rid of. The leader of the boggarts in Lancashire is known as Old Hob, and is kind of like a satire figure, almost like the devil, basically. He is the devil, cloven feet, you know, the satire-like figure. And he has dominion over the boggarts within the northwest regions of Lancashire. Boggarts also can sour milk, they can make dogs and animals lame, they can do a myriad of things, snatch food out of people's hands. There's a lot of things that they can do, cause upset and general misery. In some cases, in a story that you will hear, the boggart actually can help people as well, but it will always be kind of troublesome and mischievous and generally not be a good force in people's lives. Now, there is the loci-based boggarts. There are so many different tales of this. There are so many different tales of boggarts that are based in locations around the northwest area of Lancashire. There are a myriad of stories. It was quite overwhelming kind of researching, like, oh my God, I've bitten off more than I can chew. But there is a story about the boggart of Townley. The Boggart of Townley, it's known as Boggart Bridge, which is in Burnley. And there once lived a boggart who would often demand gifts from travellers before they crossed the bridge. And one day, as a compromise, what had happened is it was reached where the boggart was allowed to keep the soul of the first thing that crossed the bridge. And as long as there was greenery around the bridge, the boggart would never return. And so what the locals done the next day was they sent over an old hen. And the hen crossed the bridge, which the boggart claimed, and then he left, leaving behind only the smell of sulphur and brimstone. And to make sure the spirit didn't come back, what the locals done was they planted evergreens. And apparently, ever since, he's not been there. He's up and left. So, there is another area in Manchester, in between Blakely and Moston and near Harper Hay, known as Boggart Hole Clough. Now, the word clough is Northern English dialect, and it means a steep valley or wooded ravine. Manchester is very, very industrial, and so Boggart Hole Clough is one of the places that kind of survived that. You know, a lot of places were demolished and built over, so Boggart Hole Clough is one of the last places around Manchester that actually survived that. And it's 190 acres of ancient woodland. Some of the birch, alder, hazel and oak are actually older than 5,000 BC. You know, there was an early Bronze Age spear that was found in Boggart Hole Clough. It's, you know, it's actually very, very old in certain parts. Now, there is a belief that at night the boggarts come from under the drainage grills, and from them they will steal children, hurt people, things like that. And from around the 1800s, there emerged a lot of folk tales about Boggart Hole Clough. And the interesting thing is here that where Boggart Hole Clough is actually quite a rough area. It's quite a rough area. And there's a significant amount of bodies that have actually been found in Boggart Hole Clough. If you just put Boggart Hole Clough body found, there is a lot of news reports about that. So there, you know, it's quite a rough area. So you have to bear in mind that, you know, bodies and rough areas. I mean, I'm from a rough area, and, you know, sometimes horrible things turn up because people do horrible things, because people can be really nasty. Thank God I don't live in that rough area anymore. But my point is that you know, there's been quite a lot of nasty stuff that's happened around there. Rape, molestations, all sorts of horrible news reports that have happened in Boggart Hole Clough. Now, there is a story about Boggart Hole Clough that I will... there we are. So the Boggart Hole Clough, the story based around that was that once again there was a farmer. There begins to be a pattern here, and when you listen to this story, you'll notice a pattern to my last story as well. So there was a farmer known as George Cheetham, and George Cheetham lived in a farmhouse with his family who were tormented by a boggart, being described as a strange elf, a strangest elf, sly and mischievous. And it used to make noises at night, loud noises at night. It used to snatch the food out of the children's hand. It used to cause all sorts of mischief, all sorts of, misery to the family. Sometimes it would actually help the family by scouring pans and churning butter. But most of the time, it kind of was more of a hinder than it was actually a help. And so one day, the farmer, George Cheetham, had had enough and decided that the family would pack up and move. So just as his family were ready to leave, his neighbour, John Marshall, asked the farmer, like, "Are you fleeing, George? You know, are you fleeing? Are you going?" And then from behind the family, the boggart replied, "Aye, we're fleeting." And then with that, George and his family just gave up, and they turned around and they went back, realising that no matter where they went, the boggart would follow them. The boggart would be it was a part of the family. Now it had locked itself onto the family. And according to an essay online called The Suburban Boggart, Folklore in an Inner City Park by Carrie Holbrook, which is a fantastic article that she's written, the story first appears in John Ruby's Traditions of Lancashire, published in 1829. However, it's said that he was told this story by an Irish folklorist named Thomas Crofton Crocker, who had heard the tale through an older, worthy lady. Now, interestingly enough as well, there is also a tale that occurs very basically near enough the same in Yorkshire. And the farmer's first name is George, and the neighbour's first name is John, just like in the Mancunian version. Now, this is only my speculation, but the name George is associated with St. George, England, and maybe they used George as a way to differentiate the story from an Irish story to an English story. Who knows? I don't know, but it's just a speculation. Now, it's very interesting to see this hand, you notice a pattern in a lot of the stories all about the farmer. It's all about a farmer, and a boggart attaches itself to the family, and, maybe he pisses him off, or maybe it just started off as that. But the end result is that the farmer wants to leave, and the boggart replies, "Yeah, we're leaving. Stay there, or just get me wooden clogs and come with you." you know, or we're fleeing. And it's quite funny. I find it quite, well, it's not funny. If it happened to me, I'd be, Jesus, it would be horrific. But the point is, well, I've had instances where it's, anyway, I've had instances where it's happened to me, you know, like I said earlier in that little story, and that was a fucking nightmare. But the point is, there seems to be this pattern among the folk tales of the Boggart in Lancashire. Now, one of my friends, Tracy, bless her soul, love her to bits, I kind of done a little bit of a Facebook post and I said, does anybody around the area know any information about Boggart Hole Clough? Obviously it has a Boggart in it, but I want to know if any of the locals have any stories, because to me that's where the folklore is, you know, among the local community, among the local people, the knowledge that they have. And Tracy's husband, Ross, has kind of given me this to read out, which is pretty awesome. And thank you so much, because it is a really valuable piece of information, a valuable piece of folklore, and I love it. So he said there was a mansion in the Clough facing the entrance to Booth Hall Hospital, which was originally Booth Hall Manor. In the 60s, where the mansion was, they had a picnic area all around the stone floor that was left of the mansion. All the kids used to run around the stone floor shouting as the huge trees used to cause an echo. The rumour about the Boggart was that the people of Blakely Manor, the old spelling of the Booth Hall Manor, built another house in the Clough. They left the house in the Clough and it was demolished, as the Boggart haunted them because the Clough belonged to the Boggart. The Boggart allowed you to play in the area, but it would not allow you to build in it. The Boggart lived there, nobody else. If you look at it now, the pet zoo did not work, the cafe did not work, the ice cream parlour did not work. Ross's granddad, John Moore, built the lake, and even that in the 60s was a busy boating lake, not anymore. Something happened to the lake and all the ducks died. Ross says he can still hear his mom saying, "Nothing can be built in the Clough, it belongs to the Boggart." A little extra, in the war, ICI, Imperial Chemical Industries, produced the chemicals for bombs. The village is in a dip, and they had steam towers which covered the village in steam so the Germans could not see the factories. One of the bombs the Germans dropped was a Wurlitzer bomb. They couldn't see where they were dropping it due to the steam, and it landed in Boggart Hole Clough. The site is at the bottom of Charleston Road, where it meets Rochdale Road near the entrance to the Clough. Ross's gran and granddad both worked at the ICI and were very proud of the fact that as close as the Germans got to destroying Blakely, the Boggart protected Blakely, its home. And I love that. I love that last piece of information that the Boggart was like, no, this is mine, you know, and it's kind of almost like through the Boggart being, this is my land, it kind of done his duty for the country, which is kind of cool. So yes, this is a long video, and I realise that, but I really hope from what I produced, you know, that you guys enjoy this video. I will put references underneath this video where I've got the information from online. And the other thing is as well, I wish you guys a blessed Imbolc. I hope you guys have a lovely day, whatever you're doing, or Lafila Bride, or I hope you know had a good supermoon, all of that good stuff. But over and out, peace, and thank you very much for listening.